to think that I'd have to wait such a long time, but she actually, for people who do not have because private therapy is very expensive, and when you don't have a lot of money, what she does is that she has a student who has agreed to provide I don't know if you want to call it gender therapy, but therapy in order for me to get my hormone readiness letter so that she can write and I'd be able to produce to a doctor or, an endocrinologist or somebody who is able to, legally prescribe hormones, because that is something that I do wish to do at some point in time. But I know it takes time, and with the location that I'm at, has presented definitely its challenges.
Okay. I don't want this to seem rude, what I'm going to say, but I want you to look into the camera when you're talking to me, because I'm getting a disconnect from you. So for you and me to understand each other, and for the audience to understand you, we need to see each other, talk to each other, not looking this way and that way, not to be mean or rude. I just want your story to be clear, and I want you to be heard.
Right.
So now, where are your parents?
Well, my father is here, still living in Pictou, and my mother, she passed away 2 years ago. I grew up with my father, myself, my sister, and myself. We went to go live with him when we were very young, and my mother was in and out, not in and out a lot. So she didn't raise us. My father basically raised us.
Okay. Is your father strict? Does he understand you? Even as Rodney, does he understand you? Does he talk to you? Does he hang out with you? Does he play sports with you? Is he involved in your life? And mainly when you were younger, is he involved in your life?
Oh yeah, he actually comes up every single day. And we talk on the phone probably 2 or 3 times a day. Growing up, I was in baseball. He would come to games, and so he's very much involved in my life. He's very. I don't really talk to him a lot about gay things or transitioning, because he grew up Catholic, and although he's not a strict Catholic, he's Catholic nonetheless, and he would rather me be straight and be married and have kids, but unfortunately that's just not the way the cards were dealt.
Okay. Now, so you're do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have 2 half brothers, and 1 full sister, so we share a mother and father. My older brother, he lives in the county that I'm living in. My other brother, he passed away in '92. So I'm not really close with any of my siblings. I don't really have too much of a relationship with them. I talk to them off and on Facebook, but as far as like in-person things and like going out for dinner and things, no.
Okay. Now, the reason I'm asking you all this is because I want to connect the family to your story. And I want to understand, because, when I'm talking to people that are transitioning, and mainly young people, I want them to understand what I went through and what lots of other ladies that I have spoken to or had conversations with about. And a lot of us have the same familiar stories, but just from a different point of view. Now, when you were, when did you know you were different?
I knew probably when I was probably around 10 or 11, when I would start trying on my sister's dresses. When everybody was gone, I would try on her dresses. I would try on her lipstick. I would try on maybe some blush. And to me, it wasn't necessarily me doing something funny or fun. It was me. It just seemed a little almost normal, although I knew it wasn't society's idea of normal. It was perfectly normal feeling for me. It wasn't weird for me to put on a dress. It felt perfectly normal. And I started questioning things around that time, around that age. and living with my sister, she, had all the female things and all female clothing and everything. So I would just
Mhm,
dabble in that when everybody was gone.
mhm. Now, this next question I'm going to ask is it's sort of a personal question. Now, do you actually feel like you're in the wrong body?
Oh, absolutely. 100. I know with 100% certainty that I should have been born physically a female. Now, some people may get offended by maybe me saying that because they may not think that a female, not just a female, has a vagina. There are females who have penises.
Mhm,
And for me, the idea of a woman that I want to become is a woman with a vagina. And I'm doing my research. I'm going through the necessary things. I know in Canada we have something called the standards of care that therapists and doctors have to follow, and I have to follow in order to get my end result.
mhm. So, do you do you feel like you're going is things happening the way you want them to happen? I mean, when you're reaching out for the support, are you sort of seeing some sort of connection?
I have some supports through friends here in town. I have some, newly supports with the organization I just joined. I think it's tomorrow or the next day is when my first therapy session. So slowly but surely, like I'm very much a person who wants to things done right like that. But I
Mhm.
know that there is a process to do things, and it's not necessarily put in place to hurt me, but you know, if my end result is I want gender reassignment surgery, they want to make sure that this is who I am and how I feel, because once you do that surgery, there's no really going back.
Mhm. You know, Rodney, for years, I've been around trans women all my life. All my life, I've been around trans women. So I know how they are and how they think. And most of them, whether they're doing drag or they're just being who they are as themselves, living as women or working as women or just being part of society as women, most women in general want a quick fix. This is
Mhm.
why they do the surgeries and they do this stuff. And I'm glad the doctors today, back in the day, they didn't care so much about, the girls getting all the silicone and all this stuff because most of the girls suffered behind closed doors. And they did all these illegal operations and they went through these extreme measures to become women overnight. And it doesn't
Mhm.
happen like that. So the fact that they're taking you through the steps is a good thing, and
Mhm.
mainly today. So I like that fact, and the fact that you're a young person and you understand that you must go through the slow changes and step
Mhm.
by step to become the woman that you want to be.
Right.
Now, this is a becoming a woman is not a light-hearted thing. This is a serious thing that will affect your life until the day you are to the day you die. So you have to understand that what the decision that you're making is a very this decision that you want it to be.
Mhm. Right.
And the fact that you could be affecting others out there about your story and about how you feel inside. Now, have you ever got mistaken as a woman?
Um, on the phone, sometimes what I do is uh, I don't think I have a very deep voice.
Mhm.
I also don't have the really hard masculine features either, like as for what I'm told. So sometimes when I'm on the phone I get mistaken for a girl, but
Mhm.
out in public, 99% of the people say sir or he or
Mhm.
male, and that doesn't necessarily hurt my feelings because they don't know my story. So of course they're going to say he because they don't know, they haven't had the opportunity to ask. So how else would they know to call me either
Well,
she
you
or
know,
her?
most of the time, being a female or is something that's very visual, whether breast or the makeup
Hmm.
or nails, hands, gestures, curves, those kind of things that they identify with women or trans women that are, becoming themselves. Now, what I like the most about you is the fact that you work and you understand that you are around doctors and nurses, people that can actually help you
Mm-hmm.
become the woman that you want to be. And the fact that you are actually talking to a doctor or a therapist, this is a great thing. So and mainly in a small town. So for those out there in small towns, I think the idea of talking to a therapist first and understanding your options, and that therapist understanding you as an individual and understanding the decision that you are about to make will impact your life for a lifetime. I understood that. But back then in the day, I didn't have the support that we have now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, I look at it this way, Rodney. The fact that you are taking steps, and maybe in a small town, to become the person you want to be is very courageous. And it will really set an example for other trans women or transgendered people that feel the same way you do. And hopefully, our show will educate them and let them know that sometimes your neighbor could be transgendered or this way or that way. But we also have to remember not everybody's going to support us.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not the way life is.
Right.
You're gonna have to become very strong in the next few months, and then through your transition you're gonna have to become stronger
Right.
in so many ways, and even from your own transgender community. So you're going to be looking at a lot of roadblocks, but I think that you can do what you need to do to be the person that you want to be. I'm really glad. Like, I want to just ask you something. How do you identify right now? How do you identify, and then how do you feel about that identity?
Well, I identify as she because that's who the person that I am and becoming, and because like I said, transition is a process. Um, and right now, I this year I turned 40, and I am to the point where I don't want to be 70 years old or older going through the process, because I don't want to say my shoulda coulda wouldas. I'm in a position now where, even though I'm in a small town, I'm 40 years old, I need to start living my life for me, and the supports that are out there, even though few, grab onto those supports so I can reach the position where I eventually want to be.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you something now that I think is really prevalent or relative to what we're talking about, relationships. You're a 40-year-old and you identify as she. Now, you're a 40-year-old trans person in a small town. This is when you probably should be having children or in a lasting relationship, have a house, have that stability of sort of family, whether you're in a relationship or a committed civil union of somehow. Now,
Mhm.
the transition process that you're thinking about going through is going to take years.
Mhm.
So what's going to happen with you and the life that you should probably be seeking with either another person or or a civil union, or how are you going to do that, and that if you are seeking a relationship, because somewhere along the line in a small town companionship is very important.
Mhm. Well, for myself, I would absolutely right now love to have a relationship. However, I also know that starting my transition and, currently living boy mode, but eventually, living as a girl, and having gender reassignment surgery, that individual right now is probably going to be a gay male that is going to maybe want to date me, but he's going to have to soon realize that even though I may look like a boy and live like a boy, that is very much going to change. So, in order to get into a relationship, you know, to my knowledge, a gay man wants to date another man. And even though I have male parts, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
um, one day I won't. So does that mean that that relationship is no longer going to be valid or important? Because I can't expect him to say. And there are maybe some people who will stay in a relationship. I've heard that that's can happen, and it does happen. But how often does that happen when, I guess, when a partner transitioned and then all of a sudden he is now she, and your partner, I can't expect my gay boyfriend to all of a sudden now be into women, because that's also not fair to them to put that expectation on them just because I want to have a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Now, a quick question: do you ever? Now, this is more of a personal one, and I'm going to try to word it the right way so it doesn't seem sleazy or hoary or promiscuous. Have you ever dressed up for a man and had him over just to see what you would feel like? Because sometimes the transition process is very important on how you interact with men. And that sometimes can be a very good help with you when you are transitioning.
Well,
Not
I've
necessarily.
never,
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
haven't, oh, sorry, I haven't, I have never dressed up for a man. However, um, I have had men on Grinder who are probably closeted gay people that are married to women who are into, uh, I guess the term would be maybe lady boy. I'm not trying to be offensive or anything, or some people even call it a sissy. I don't call it that, but they do. And a lot of the requests that I get from those individuals is, well, when I come over, can you be in a bra and panties and some pantyhose? Maybe even some high heel shoes, because when he comes over, would also majority of the time want to have women's panties on as well. So for
Mhm.
them, it's more of a sexual thing. It's more of a fetish thing. And I usually either just block them or don't respond, because the way I look at it is like they're just, sure, we're all sexual beings and we all like to feel good. However, I'm not going to put myself through some sort of experiment just for a closeted married man to come over. Like I don't need sex that bad or a relationship that bad to dress up for a sexual thing, because that's not what my life is about, or I don't want it to be about that anyway.
Okay. Now, see, I like the fact that you said that, you want maybe start wearing a little makeup here and there to sort of see how people react to you or how you feel inside.
Hmm.
Now, I know it can be very scary in a small town to put makeup on and go to the mall or just go sit and have coffee. But generally, doctors suggest this.
Hmm.
You go sit around a coffee shop. Maybe you wear a little blouse or something that looks feminine. And you wear a little makeup and you sit around and you chat with your friends and see how your surroundings are. And not necessarily that they're going to be good all the time or they're going to be bad, but it'll help you integrate into society as the woman that you want to be.
Hmm.
Now, I have learned that sometimes when you look a certain way, that is what it becomes. But then you have to be a strong woman to understand that sexuality plays a big role in the way you go out as a woman into the world and how
Hmm.
people and men will definitely view you. So, with that being said, um, I'm trying to I'm trying to word it the right way because I want the people out there to understand that when you're growing up and you're young and you have these sexual desires or these feelings that you're not in the right body, or you're attracted to a different kind of person, that you need to take the steps very carefully to become the person you are, so you don't have these regrets and you don't end up in a disastrous situation down the road. Now, I like the fact that you've been very clear on what you want. I like the fact that you know the direction you want to go in. And I like the fact that you keep talking about the final part of the surgery. You keep mentioning that. So that means that in my mind, I'm thinking that you are convinced that you were born in the wrong body, in a sense, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You want to feel like a woman, and the final surgery of having everything removed is key for you, because in that way you will feel like you're in the right body. And it happens to a lot of the girls. I know a lot of girls that have had sex changes, and I've been over there to look at their changes. And for me, I have a wide spectrum of thoughts about changing your gender, as far as the anatomy, not
Mm-hmm.
as far as your physical, but the anatomy. And I think that we have to be very careful when we do these kind of things, because most trans women who have corrective surgery commit suicide. Did you know that?
I know that some individuals have done that. Um, I don't know necessarily the numbers, but I know
It's very high. It's very
mm,
high.
mm,
But go ahead. I'm just saying, because the reason I'm mentioning that to you is because a lot of the trans women that I know, that just generally they get the breast and they keep their sexual part below, because they've
mhm,
understood that down the road they've been eventually, now they're starting to go to doctors, because they realize so many of the girls died from all the silicone injections and going to these quick doctors trying to become a woman overnight. And they're learning now to go to regular doctors, but the regular
mhm.
doctors are finally telling them the suicide rate for trans women is very high. And not that I'm discouraging you, I just want you to understand that I support you totally in the fact that you want to be the woman that you want to be. And I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of other trans women out there that will support you and be there for you. But I would say, one step at a time.
Mhm.
Try the makeup thing. Try going out socializing a little bit here and there. Try finding not necessarily a boyfriend, but somebody that you can just talk to as a male friend. That's on a up to up level, not a sexual thing, but just sort of
Mhm.
to see how you interact. Because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
easy for you to interact with men as a man, but as a woman, it's very hard, because generally men are a threat to women in some sense or another. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. I do. Yeah.
And so you have to, that's going to be a key role as well. Um, you know, what I want to know now is, are you actively, like, have you talked to a doctor about hormones?
I haven't. I well. Yeah. The first thing I guess I have to do is I have to go to a therapist who is WPATH certified, and only a WPATH certified therapist can write your hormone readiness letter, and then at that point, you can go see an endocrinologist. Um, to my knowledge, I don't know of many family physicians who write hormones, because they really probably want to refer you to a specialist, like the hormone specialist. Um, and the rainbow community that I belong with, we're trying to send out letters to get more family doctors trained so that they feel comfortable in prescribing hormones, so trans people don't have to wait months, sometimes a year, in order to get start hormones, because in that time a lot of people experience dysphoria, and some do commit suicide because they can't see the end result. They can't see that bright light at the end of the tunnel. So hopefully, like a lot of hopefully, I hope and pray that more family physicians and doctors are able to take the specific course in order to feel comfortable enough to prescribe hormones, because they already do have that medical knowledge. So it's just that one step further and able to help their trans patients, because I'm sure they have trans patients whether they know it or not.
You know, Rodney, the first thing I'm going to say to you is I commend you, number one. The key to a lot of our mental wellness and our mental health in general is the fact that it took me a long time to understand this because I was always in committed relationships. And once I realized that my career was really more important to me than those kind of things. It hurt a lot of people that I loved, and but I understood that I had to separate the two. Now, I like the fact that you're in a stable environment as a trans person. This is really key. You're in a stable environment, you're working. That means that you're interacting with people all the time. So the idea, putting a little makeup on here and there and seeing how people interact with you, but always understanding that it will not always be positive, and understand that you're going to run into a lot of opposition because of it. But
Mm-hmm.
what you have to do is you have to surround yourself with making sure that everything is okay so you stay stable, so you
Mm-hmm.
can continue your process. So I would suggest that maybe you talk to the human resource worker at work and just explain to them that there's nothing, your job is the same way it is, but so you don't run into that wall down the road. So
Mm.
they understand that you're maybe the person that's in charge of the nurses is not going and saying, well, he's doing this and he's doing that, because sometimes people don't understand us
Right.
and sort of put our lives in jeopardy in a sense without us even knowing because they don't understand us. So the fact that you're stable, I take my wig off to you for that, because that's amazing. That's the first steps to becoming the woman that you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a job, you have a place to live, you have an understanding of what you want, and you're taking the first steps to becoming the woman that you want to be. And